Just so you know, the live stream is now live, so anything that you say or do, you're gonna be seen.
Okay, good to know. I'm in here. And that little dapple. Super pretty, yeah.
So there's 4 children and there's 4 spouses, so, do you think you wanna maybe 2, 4, 6, 8? 2, 4, 6, either side.
Okay.
That's one.
Yeah.
I think that I'm gonna move these flowers off because otherwise the piece in there, I can see.
Okay. Yes. Do you want to sit with your kids?
Kids, right? Well, no, the kids would normally sit behind you.
Oh,
But
is that-
here's what's gonna happen is people are gonna come 2, 4, 6, 8. It might be better to do this side. But that way people come in, they file past you, and they come by. Typically, if you're sitting with your kids, and you're sitting with your kids on either side, how do people come by? Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have everybody come down this way. So if you want the children in the front row, then we can do it that
It's
way.
up to you.
We have 10 over here. How many grandchildren are there?
6.
They said, did guests in the refrigerator or their kitchen?
He did.
I don't know exactly what that is.
Oh, yeah, I need to know where it is before I start carrying it, it's kind of heavy.
Simply sat here, looking over like all the same place. And it was one direction.
What do you want to do? Do you want your children next to you?
Yeah, you, what,
Worry about the service of the next to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so your children are younger.
yeah, little guys.
Okay, well, and you have 3?
Yeah.
Why
They're
don't
in the middle.
why don't we just have 1 seat? That way we've got 11. You have your 3 kids, and then the adult children can sit in the second row, and that might work. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just get a chair.
I'll be quiet.
You can be quiet, so you want to pick up, so maybe.
Yeah, I'll sit behind you again.
Okay.
Okay, so that makes 11. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Okay.
And, I should use this one. Can I give you a hammer, honeycomb? No, good, thank you. Okay, appreciate it.
There may be, yeah, there may be people in walkers coming through and stuff. Guess we got room for walkers. I know, they seem together, pretty smiley.
So all the siblings and spouses will just in the front row, and these 3 guys will sit with us. And then we go.
So your family of 5 made kids in these last 5 years, does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, but
You sit here, we sit together.
Is it better if I sit on the edge?
So
It
we
doesn't
have
matter if you're
instructions.
thinking For any reason, there's an issue with one of your children, you need to, run about it with.
There's a front row with 3 older grandchildren behind us.
Oh, okay, the front row on the right?
The front row on the right.
Okay.
That way when folks come in, if they want to express their condolences, they can, come walk over for all of us.
All right. That's that.
And this live stream's on.
Oh,
And there's, two devices on, so.
Okay.
So I'm gonna figure out a way to move that out of the way. I'm gonna move this one before. But they should be able to make it through there. I just need to move. I'm more concerned about this.
I can take that down to the other end if you like.
Thank you.
All you needed was like a duct tape and you would have been there.
We should be all good now. I mean, I could move the one more chair to do a little, I think it's for a walker should be fine.
Let's serve that one last.
Get it put in the fridge.
Yeah, let's do this.
I'll just say it's cold inside.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty.
Getting better.
Oh, look at that.
Did you see that, guys? See how it's going? How pretty is that? Here, come look over here.
The stained glass is up there.
It's cool because it doesn't look like those colors up there and here. It's more of that. More yellow.
And then you're ready to bury it.
It's beautiful. And look, do you see the flowers?
There, you can see like in the bottom and furthest.
Yeah. If I can, we'll judge it.
Yeah.
Sweep it out outside. But if not.
Oh, yeah.
You guys want to see the flowers?
Thinking you could also make shadow panels.
How is your puppet of the hammerhead shark? Have you utilized it well?
Yes.
Okay, good. Picture important.
Just checking.
Do you have to perform? Is there a song on this? You need to get something. Do you know any?
Pardon?
Do you know any?
Do I know any?
Actual shadow, no. I mean, the only one I sort of did as a kid is like, this was supposed to be something that had an eye and ears. Bunnyish?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's our red cow.
What do you think?
I can see it.
That is this guy.
What?
I can see it.
I mean,
But what is it?
Crazy woman put her hand out. You're.
Bunny.
Oh, thank you.
I know.
There's a bunny.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's why I'm always at home.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what I need, actually.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I'm all right. Thank you, though.
I'll take it. Thank you. Sing on pass up a free drink, didn't you?
I was asking if he's utilized his hammerhead shark puppet to its full potential.
Not the full potential.
I'm disappointed.
You have
Have you
utilized, not
utilized?
your full
Okay.
potential.
All right. How's your rating going, ma'am? Good?
You got what you're working on? Well, nothing original. Well, I guess it could consider be kind of original, right, Sis? Your 100, how many pages of?
15
113?
pages of printing and
Tell her about your plan, what your plan is.
a play.
Cool, all right.
But what about the writing of the what?
The scripts.
But also you're writing a grant, is that what you said?
Typing.
A grant,
Yeah.
2 months. Go you, that's awesome. All right, very cool.
Got like fuzzies in your hair, sis.
Okay. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
We got a lot of plans, but we just now gotta, well, I guess that's probably one of those having 5 different things working on, getting all that involved. Yeah, of course. All that stuff. Okay, let's go on to the next. Okay, let's go on to the next.
That's happy to be. Sometimes you need to move on to the next to give the other ones a care.
There you go. How you doing? Nice to meet you. How you feel?
Were you not? I'm sorry. Good times.
Go figure with all the beef jerky on the way here. So, well, let's just think about it. It's a combination of all the different types of food and see if you guys. I make them see Well, we're getting some meat. We got the meat sweats.
Middle of service.
Well, still, I missed you. I remember that. I don't know why. It's interesting. Having took the pictures. Sarah.
Goodness, look at this smooth. Hey.
Hey, how are you?
All things considered. Hey, hey, what's going on? Are you okay?
This is
Okay.
Mrs. Black.
Okay.
Usually over cake.
You can't. Yeah, it could be, sorry. All right, I owe you $40. Oh, good. Good, yeah, mine's okay. Well, we're going tonight, so. I'm 0 for 1, how about you? No, you haven't quite yet, that's right. No, that's right. We were gonna go.
Well,
That's right, oh, that's right. 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 I recall you tried to, they ended up losing that one too, didn't they? Yeah. I haven't seen a winner yet. I don't think tonight is gonna be such a great. Minnesota, who's got 8 wins. Yeah. And then, you know, we eat my gluten-free hot dog and leave after the second period. He's not, but I think they're kind of doubling them up and, you know, maybe opening up the other guys. I thought Felina was playing well, Donato was playing well. I like, last year, this was classic.
And I got a Tavo Teravainen sweater from 10 years ago. It was Tavo Teravainen night. So I got to wear my Tavo instead of my Dennis Savard. Because I won't wear my Tavs. And I think it's, I don't know what happened. I mean, do you hear anything? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was going to try to maybe play again.
Yeah.
But
Nope. No, and of course we see King just run circles around them. Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
Okay. How are you? All things considered. Sorry to see you here, but.
So, this is
Hi.
Nancy.
hello, my name's Ben.
Ben.
Yeah.
It's been many, many years since we,
Right? Yeah, since we went to
Italian Village. So, that was a long time. Can't expect you to remember. Yeah.
I do remember that.
Oh, okay, good.
Richard and I, we share the tickets.
We share the hockey
Share the
tickets.
tickets.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Sorry about your, Richard.
You're free to do whatever way you wish to do it. I always recommend it.
Got nice memories of your grandmother. And your grandfather, and your grandfather, for that matter. He and I were birthday buddies, did you know that? We shared a birthday. Merrill and I shared a birthday. It was a few years older than us.
50 people.
Yeah, yeah, we shared a birthday. So who's the hockey fan? You're the hockey fan, okay, all right.
We're supposed to sort of go to where we're gonna sit a little bit so people can come by.
Sure.
Condole.
We're done.
Is that on the outside?
There's our plan. Yeah. No, listen, New England, not a great team. Oh, don't you think we should? Well, I brought my phone, will it be intrusive? I'll put my
If I had had a phone when I was in Sunday school,
Right,
I was
I'll put my AirPods
in
in.
such trouble.
Anytime I do, you know, we can't watch the Blackhawks games because of the stupid thing, so I feel like I'm like when I sit in bed with the transistor radio, listening to Lloyd.
It's funny, I don't even know who that is, and my
Oh,
name's Lloyd.
oh, really? He was the announcer way back in the day.
Here, honey, hold on, I'm gonna put this.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I have a stapler down too. Thank you so much. We get a stapler. Sit behind you guys. It's outside. It's usually not hard to So we're sending the service via live stream. And then, was that your grandma? Great aunt? I'll show you.
I wanna look at this picture. And then we can see.
This is from Watson. Amy Field, suggestion. Oh my God. You know what? It was lovely. I just got my knee done, new knee. That's how I was. Right? So that makes me older. And I have a card that I'm gonna send you one of these years on my kitchen table.
Oh, no.
So good to see you. Nice to see you. Oh my gosh, how are you doing? Yeah. There hasn't been, oh, no, not even. Not even? No, it was in February. No.
That was from a while ago. This is actually.
You know what, as I get older, time doesn't exist. I think something was 5 years ago when I was.
Yeah, that's wild. They were born.
It actually is going from here to the local, to a satellite,
So
to
I don't
YouTube,
remember that one. I
and
do
then
remember
YouTube.
seeing pictures of them on a playground.
My grandparents in the business, they couldn't even leave the funeral home.
I
People would
don't
have
remember
people
which
in
theater
their
it was.
phones.
I do remember it was.
So they would have come and knock on the door. You know, my dad grew up upstairs in the funeral home.
Well, I had a fear of the front row. So my mom would come in and she said, "I'm gonna sit in the front row." And nobody was sitting in the first three rows. Everybody was sitting in the front row. And we thought this was kind of odd. It was
Yeah.
And so we were going to a lot of places. And so we were right there in the front. I don't remember, one of us was sitting next to my father. I can't remember which. I think it might have been Nancy. And I just remember, you know, because we were like 16. I mean, I was 16, she was 17. Oh gosh, we were both.
Of course you did.
And yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did go back. But it's 16.
That's surprising. No, really needs to. So what are you doing now?
So I did do professional theater for 10 years. I was a now I'm a teacher. And I teach special education. And theater is really interesting. And I have started to read program those who are dyslexic.
Do you wanna come over here? Is that okay?
I know. I wonder if this is amazing. Manufacturing, it's so small. I'm very surprised.
My kids are grown now.
Well, you could go in the.
3 and 6. So, yeah, they don't see us. I mean, they do, but it's phone calls to AM, not after school. Yes. So, that's what I'm doing, yeah. And I can say it's part of the reason I'm doing teaching with professionals. It was. And that was what, one of the things I did put in my letter, was because, I mean, he just has a lot of people. Because I dropped out, I didn't know we were getting a new. Yeah, I called. I shared my sign up. Yeah, but he guided, and I think I must have started thinking I need to go back, because were we friends? Such a great. I would say almost 90% of my memories are school. And I did great. Even though I was a kid.
We have to get together.
I was trying that. Never went. I cut across the head.
Before he needed them, supposedly. I'll never forget the Friday. Yeah, it was on the marching field, and we were senior breakfast. We had breakfast that, just the seniors for that morning.
Why? Just get off. You want to sit there?
Thank you.
Part of our entertainment.
There's a live stream that's going on right here now, and you're, just so you're aware.
I know.
And I can what? Now. That might be.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start in just a moment. Can everybody put your cell phones to silent so the phone doesn't interrupt the service? And for those of you that just walked in, would you please put your cell phones to silent? Service will be conducted by Rabbi Isaac Serrano.
This tradition was that you hear that someone got to actually tear the clothing out, symbolic of tearing the clothes. So, but like a piece of cloth, so use it, the heart heals, it goes on. Even at times of sadness, we say a blessing. God, you have a perfect life, perfect bringing you into the world. You care these rings. You need to let yourself support about for me. That just get over there today. Sometimes we'll get it on the side. Just
Got it.
you can see that no again.
Death has taken our beloved Janet Freed. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there's lamentation. In their tears, there's loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Heal them, O God. Be with them. For Janet's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path, which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and are now a precious remembrance. For all these things and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures. They bring us the ever-new message of God's nearness. They tell us of our kinship with our Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. So we read the ancient word of Psalms. Psalm 23 is probably the most famous poem in the world. It's been translated into every language. And in every language, it teaches us a couple of things. It teaches us that God makes a home for our soul, a place in the world to come. And it reminds us that in our time of sadness, when we walk through the valley of the shadow of darkness, the valley of the shadow of death, that God is with us, that God cares for us in our moments of greatest need. So we read these ancient words, Psalm 23. You can join me if you like. The English translation is here in your brochure. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When I think of Janet, the chapter in the book of Proverbs comes to mind. Chapter 31 is sometimes called a woman of valor, and certainly applies in this situation. A woman of valor who can find she is more precious than rubies. Her husband trusts in her and says it lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding, her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sang her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. We'll read too from the book of Ecclesiastes, very famous section that tells us that for everything there's a season. a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Indeed, this is a time to speak of this woman of valor, Janet Freed. And as I met with her children the other day, Daniel brought in some things that I think were just some notes that he thought maybe we incorporate, but frankly, they were so well put together that I'm just going to read them to you here on his behalf. Mom got things done. Beyond the many things she was already good at, she was never intimidated about taking up a new challenge. In middle age, she taught herself how to use a computer by reading books and experimenting. When the dining room chairs needed to be reupholstered, she thought she could figure out how to do it herself, and then she did it. And they looked great. When repairmen came to the house to fix something, she always watched and asked questions. She wanted to understand how things worked. And if the problem reoccurred, she wanted to be able to fix it herself. And she kept old and broken appliances in the basement in case the parts would come in handy someday. Part of this was a desire to save money. Mom loved to save money. But most of it was her curiosity and her desire to be competent and independent. Mom was curious about many things and loved learning about them. She asked people endless questions about their lives and interests. She had a stack of books on her night table, and I can't possibly remember all of them, but what was it? Easy Lessons in Egyptian, what was it? Hieroglyphics? Egyptian hieroglyphics. Mom was always busy. She routinely stayed up into the wee hours because she had so many things she wanted to do. And she didn't do things halfway. For many years, she made candy to give to family and friends during the holidays. She turned the kitchen into a candy factory for weeks and seemingly produced enough candy to feed half of Highland Park. And the cookies. Her freezer was always full of enough homemade cookies to feed at least 50 people. Mom loved to talk and could happily do so for hours. She was a big presence in any gathering. She had strong opinions on many topics and left no one in doubt about what those opinions were, unless she thought there was any possibility that stating an opinion might offend or hurt someone. If so, she kept it to herself. No small feat for her, because making someone else feel bad was the last thing in the world she ever wanted to do. Every Halloween, Mom would answer the front door wearing Groucho glasses. But she always kept one hand on the glasses because she knew that sometimes they might scare a young child, and she wanted to be ready to pull them off quickly to show the friendly face behind them. Brash and quirky, but sensitive and thoughtful, that was Mom. Mom loved telling stories. She had many favorite stories that she told over and over and over and over. It drove us a little crazy sometimes, but now that she's gone, it's nice to know that we heard those stories so many times that we'll never forget them. A few people have described the house decor as frozen in the 1970s. That's the decade when all four of her children were living in the house. The decade that began with the birth of her youngest child and ended with her older children leaving for college. The decade of maximum life in the house. No wonder she wanted to freeze it. Mom loved her family and she loved life. As much as she loved life, she had absolutely no fear of the end of life. And of course, she had strong opinions about it and left us in no doubt about those opinions. We knew exactly what she wanted, which was a gift. In her last years, as she gradually lost the competence and independence that were so important to her, she would tell us that she had lived a long and happy life. Now she wanted to be dead. It was hard to hear and hard to respond to. But she needed to say it, and we needed to hear it. And when she died, it was in her own home, with all of her 4 children in the house again. Thank you. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have joys we learn to share, we remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. So I'd like to ask Sarah to come up and share a few words, and Joe, if you'll come up and be at her side, just in case.
He actually doesn't sign it. This is my prologue. I am a crier. Always have been. When my family watches TV and a heartfelt ad comes on, my children will turn to me and say, "Mom, are you crying?" Baby. I'll snuffle out. It's a trait that explains why, at some points, Joe will be reading her this speech. It's also a trait that, throughout my life, made me feel a little lesser than, as if I weren't a strong person, as if the world were too much with me. 9 years ago, my nephew Ruben graduated from high school. Given his awesomeness, I sat in the audience eager for the event to begin. But with the first bar of pomp and circumstance, I felt the tears coming. I choked back sobs as kids I had never met and would never see again in life streamed down the aisles. I worked to pull myself together before Ruben hit the scene. Weeks later, I was recounting this story to my mom. I mentioned that my tearful tendencies often make themselves known without my permission. It felt like a confession. But my mom looked at me and said, "I think that's nice. It means you're really living your life." Oh, I wasn't tragic after all. I was feeling every moment, never letting anything significant slip by. With one sentence, my mom had turned my weakness into my superpower. When we think of moms shaping kids' lives, we often think of small children, or emotional teens, or inexperienced young adults. But I was almost 50 when my mom said that to me.
She shaped my world in beautiful, profound ways for 58 years and 226 days, and she will continue to do so because I will carry her always, safely tucked into my heart. In the days before Mom died, my siblings and I lived in her house, watching over her. We sat for hours, talking about growing up, sharing stories, and spinning a glowing thread that now ties us all together in a new, beautiful way. At some point, we realized that this was her final gift to us.
A revelation that my brother Dave shared during these conversations was that my mom loved watching David Letterman with him. Knowing my mom, she may have enjoyed Letterman, but the real draw was surely spending time with Dave. Still, Letterman is pretty hilarious. So in his spirit, I give you the top 10 list of what my mom taught me. Number 10, be organized. Mom was an epic planner. We got to airports 2 hours prior to takeoff before there was a TSA. And there were lists, so many lists. Mom's organizational skills extended to family planning. Legend has it that when my parents were dating, my gray-eyed mother looked up into my dad's face and said, "Our kids are going to have brown eyes." Dad famously replied, "Don't rush me." She got her brown-eyed kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, as planned. Number 9, celebrate everything. The big things, sure, but also the little things. For example, when any of us kids returned from overnight camp, there would always be a welcome home sign waiting in our room. Same for college and beyond. In fact, there were so many welcomes, we eventually made a generic welcome home sign with the green and brown stripe, complete with the green and black stripe at the bottom.
When that wore out, we were greeted by a photo of the generic son. Mom never missed an opportunity to let us know how much she looked forward to being with us. Number 8, if you have something nice to say it. She knew before the internet and Yelp that people are quicker to complain than compliment. To this day, I take the time to write notes to the supervisors of excellent salespeople and service providers because I watched my mom do so. Number 7, everybody loves a clipping. Mom say articles about anything her kids or in-laws or kids-in-law or grandchildren might find interesting. When we came to visit, Mom would always pull out our designated pile. It was just one of the endless ways she showed the people she loved that they were always in the forefront of her mind. Number 6, value experience over material possessions. This must have come in part from Mom's love affair with overnight camp. As a little girl, she adored her summers in the Girl Cousins cabin at Nebagaman, a camp for boys, but founded by a member of her family, so she qualified. When she was older, she was a camper and then a counselor at Rocky Barrow in Montana. I remember seeing a picture of her as a young adult on the waterfront where she taught kids to swim. She looked so sporty and confident and cool, not like a mom. Those summers were some of the happiest times of her early life. Number 5, be silly. Mom enjoyed a little whimsy. She greeted people with the Groucho glasses on Halloween, but I sort of remember Slinky glasses, but we'll have that up. Maybe go. For my 50th birthday, she baked a cake with an unclothed Ken doll popping out of it. And her prodigious pig collection is legendary. If you come back to the house, we have a pig surprise for you. Number 4, see a problem, fix it. Mom wasn't one to complain about things without conjuring up a fix. Hence her amateur career as a very well-informed writer of letters to the editor. At some point, she or we dubbed her the crazy old lady on Oakwood Avenue in tennis shoes. Her tendency to look for solutions was by default optimistic. Surely something could be done. Whenever I called to rail on about a problem, she would help me brainstorm solutions. I was raised to believe that there is always hope. 3, be honest. Mom did not lie. She did not bend rules for her own gain or convenience. She definitely conveyed this value to me when I was in elementary school. On the hunt for a shoebox to serve as a home for my little people made of pom-poms, I found one in Mom's closet. I dumped out the contents and asked if I could use it. Mom looked into my soul. Was it empty? Yes. Sweet. Then you may have it. Tormented by guilt, I faced my confess. As a reward for my honesty, she let me keep the box. That lesson resonated. Number 2, help others. Mom sought out ways to make the world better. One that particularly impressed me as a kid was that she gave blood as often as it was allowed. It literally amounted to gallons. But what made the most lasting impression on us kids was her volunteer work. Utilizing her bachelor's degree from Cornell University and her master's in social work from the University of Chicago, she worked with numerous organizations, mostly those centered around families. Thousands of people benefited. Number 1 reason.
Number 1, cherish your children. Let them know with your every word and your every deed that they are the center of your universe and that they matter. Their dreams matter. Their struggles matter. They have beautiful gifts and the world needs them. Wrap them in love so that they can grow straight and strong. Help them believe in themselves so that they can, in turn, make their own marks on the world.
Thanks.
Thank you both so much.
In the Bible, in the book of Job, Job cries out in his sorrow, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach v'yehi shem Adonai mevarach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. And ancient people were well acquainted with grief, with the valley of shadow. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave. and that there is strength in faith. So with Job, we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us Janet, a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her heart, we give the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai Lakach, God, you have taken over. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and your love, as we say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. Blessed be the name of God now and forever. Let's pause for a moment of private prayer, meditation, or memory, perhaps to think of Janet and the time you spent with her, and something perhaps you can share with your children as the day goes on. We pause for a moment of private meditation. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. We've gathered here this afternoon to honor the memory of Janet Fried, whose spirit has entered eternity. Janet and her husband Merrill, of blessed memory, have been members of this community for 60 years. They came here to make sure that their beloved children, Judith, Daniel, Sarah, and David, got a Jewish education, and then they never left. They never left. I can't say thank you enough for the support they gave our community through the years. We at Lakeside Congregation, now Makom Salel Lakeside, have been enriched by the presence of the Fried family for generations. But for those who knew Janet, it's no surprise that she continued to support our synagogue throughout her life, because support was a deep part of Janet's life. She loved her family dearly. Her parents were an inspiration to her. Janet took care of her mother, visiting her every week and calling every day. She loved her brother and sister Barbara and Bud. They were her best friends. She loved their spouses and children with all her heart. She was a source of support for Merrill. Though she was a night owl, Janet was also awake every morning to have breakfast with Merrill before he went off to work. It was a ritual, like their morning kiss before he walked out the door, and then his wave as she blew him a kiss from the bottom of the driveway. She was there for her children in every circumstance. She was chauffeur and tutor and confidant. She got up early with Merrill and stayed up late to talk to her kids. Janet took a real interest in her children's friends and always asked about them and what they were doing. She had a very expansive definition of the word family, and everyone she knew was a part of hers. If we were simply to list all the charities where Janet volunteered and supported, we would be here too long. She supported our community with all her heart. In just a few of her many endeavors beyond our congregation, Janet volunteered at the Community Family Center, the Welfare Council, Child Care Coalition, and North Suburban Service Council. Janet worked with the Moraine Township, helping review grant proposals. She attended so many township meetings that they called her the public. Because whenever they called for public comments, Janet was in line. She made it clear that a dedicated volunteer doesn't just show up in times of trouble and controversy. She made it a point to get to know the city council members, and then when Janet spoke, people listened. Janet volunteered at Highland Park Hospital. Who knows how many new moms and babies she met as she helped them get connected with social services of all kinds. Janet loved her children, and she loved all children. She was a founding board member and and eventually the board chair of the Highland Park Highwood Home Child Care Association. Janet also served as president and on the board of directors of United Way of Highland Park. There is no doubt that Janet made our community, our nation, our world a better place. We don't always know how much our actions mean to others. You throw a pebble in a pond and then it can be hard to follow the ripples. Janet touched a lot of lives, as her friends Gail and Ann said in a note they wrote to Janet. Your decades of work on United Way sent ripples of improvements to the lives of many invisible to you. You would have no way of knowing how your work on Welfare Council helped people, but here's just one example. In May of 2013, right after we were elected, you hosted a presentation on the Affordable Care Act. That presentation propelled us and probably others to train navigators to help uninsured people sign up for health insurance, and for some have access to health care for the first time in their lives. We alone have helped over 1,000 people since inception. You are our hero, Janet. We love you to the moon and back. Janet volunteered in every possible way. She had an embarrassingly large coffee mug celebrating that she had given away 10 gallons of blood. For her habit of giving blood as often as she was humanly possible, her family dubbed her a reverse vampire. There is a line we read a few moments ago from chapter 31 in the book of Proverbs. She sees that her labor is rewarding, her candle burns on in the night. You can't accomplish all that Janet did, raising her wonderful children, baking cookies and making candy in copious amounts, while being a volunteer for more organizations than we can name, without staying up all night, as she often did. She had a big presence and voiced her strong opinions, but they were always educated opinions. Janet never missed the news, and she devoured 2 newspapers a day. She loved research and enjoyed wandering the aisles of a bookstore just to be surprised and find an opportunity to learn something new. After watching all her children take piano lessons, she decided to take them herself and learned how to play. She never stopped learning about every subject for as long as she could. And yet she was never one to sit still for too long. Though she loved to read, she also loved ice skating. When she was young, she played basketball. She taught children how to swim. And in addition to her athleticism, Janet took pride in that ability she had for home maintenance. When she called someone for a repair, she watched and learned how to do it herself. Her father taught her how to handle tools, and she was the fix-it woman long before you could call up a YouTube video to walk you through a home repair. It was her proclivity and ability that led Meryl to give her a special anniversary gift one year, that drop cloth that she wanted, so that she could paint the house. Meryl and Janet had a special, loving relationship. They were set up by one of Meryl's colleagues at the law firm. Their first date was at a costume party, so Janet's inspired costume was a cane and dark glasses. She was his blind date. She loved to laugh. She and Meryl loved a comedy show. They saw the birth of Second City, the great performers like Nichols and May and Bob Newhart. Her children grew up watching comedy with her like Mary Hartman, and Fernwood Tonight. Those fantastic parodies of soap operas and talk shows. After 60 years in her house in Highland Park, Janet seemed to have a million houseplants. Visiting her home was like being in a garden or a gallery. She still had art her children made in kindergarten, and every surface is layers deep with family pictures. There are framed pictures in her bedroom on top of the pictures pressed beneath the glass top of the dresser. Janet used them to remember every moment and every phase of her family's life. She didn't want to miss a thing. We could go on all day. But to sum it up, Janet loved everyone and did everything. She was well-read, well-informed, handy, sporty, and driven to make this world a better place. She was a great daughter, sister, wife, mother, aunt, grandmother, and friend. She loved you all dearly, and her only regret was that she had to leave the party. If that's not a woman of valor, then I don't know what is. May her memory always be a blessing. Can you hear us? Please be God's will. Amen. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, but life is a journey. A growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From strength to weakness or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat to defeat until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life everlasting. Our tradition really teaches us about two kinds of immortality. There's the immortality of the soul, the gift from God given to us when we were born that our tradition says goes back to God when we die. And then there's a second kind of immortality, and that's the immortality that we give to the people that we love, as long as we remember them, as long as we tell stories about Janet. She has eternal life. So the ancient prayer that talks about that immortality of the soul reminds us also of the immortality that we bestow on the people we love. I ask you to stand for this prayer, the El Malei Rachamim, the prayer for our middle school. El Malei Rachamim Shochem B'Amronim, Hamsei Minukam Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashkina, Im Kedoshim U'Teharim Kezohar Harkia Mazirim Et Nishmata Shehalcha La'olama. Ba'al HaRachamim Yastireya B'Sefer Kanfav La'olamim. V'etzror Yitzror HaChayim Et Nishmata. Adonai Hu Nechalata. V'tanuach B'Shalom Al Nishkava V'no Malach. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Janet Freed, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. Let us say. Our service concludes with one more prayer, the Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. You can find it on the back of the brochure that you got as you came in. This prayer is called the mourner's Kaddish, but it actually doesn't mention death or mourning anywhere in it. These words are words of blessing. We thank God, even in moments of sadness. We thank God for Janet's life, for the lives that she and Meryl brought into the world, for the family that continues generation after generation, for all the good she did for so many. For all these things and more, we give our thanks to God. And so on the back page there, please join in the Kaddish Yatom. If you don't know the Hebrew, you can simply say Amen. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shnei Rabba, V'yoma divrach v'yurtei v'yamlich malchutei, V'chayei chon v'yom echon, V'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'alav Yizman Kariv Yimru Amen. Yehei Shnei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam Omer Omer. Yitparach V'yishtabach V'yitpahar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar V'yitarev V'yitalal Shnei Kishar V'yichu. Ve'elo Min Kol Birchata V'shirata. Tushbehata V'nehemata. Damiran V'yoma Nimru. Yehei Shlomo Rabba Min Shemayim, V'ha'im Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru. Osei Shalom B'Roma, Huya Hasei Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru. May God grant peace to those who mourn, and comfort all who grieve the all say. Go forth in peace to life.
Thank you, everybody that's come here today, and there was 10 devices online that joined us, so we'll probably have another 15, 20 people. But everybody is invited back to the residence at 1464 Oakwood Avenue from 2:30 to 6 today. Thank you again for coming.